Good morning. Welcome to the April 27th, 2021 Board of Commissioners meeting. Commissioner Morrow is absent today. We will start with the flag pledge led by Heather McCormick.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Heather. This is a little weird. I'm not used to having a big room and a bigger screen. So please silence your cell phones and mute your microphones. Next on our agenda is the meeting notice. Due to the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic and resulting state and federal emergency declarations and guidance about limiting unnecessary person-to-person contact, the April 27th, 2021 Nicollet County Board meeting and Drainage Authority meeting will be conducted under Minnesota Statutes 13D.021, meetings by telephone or other electronic means. County Board and Drainage Authority members will participate by telephone and other meetings. Members of the public have been informed on how to join the meeting and participate. The meeting can also be viewed on our website. Questions and comments can be directed to Mandy Landcamer, Interim County Administrator. Next on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Mandy, do we have any additions, corrections?
There is one addition for a ditch repair report that is in a blue agenda item.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Kemp seconds.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Lipke,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Kollars,
Yes.
Dreno.
Yes. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Would anybody would like any of the 5 items pulled off for further discussion? Hearing or seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
Madam
Move.
Chair. Kolar's moves.
Kemp
Thank
seconds.
you. Any further discussion?
Just one thing, Madam Chair, if I could, we heard about the audio work order at our work session by Dale here last week. Apparently everyone feels comfortable with that. And the Human Resources Technical Assistance Program membership through AMC. Mandy, if you could just give me just a little bit more information on that.
Sure, Mr. Commissioner. The opportunity for the county to seek additional guidance from Human Resources, the technical resource assessment through David Brown Associates, allows staff to access detailed information regarding human resources, questions, concerns, anything that is out of the norm, that they can follow up with this resource and feel confident with the answer that they're receiving.
And Madam Chair, as I understand that, you said that was through Drown, but that AMC also offers that, correct?
It is through AMC. Previously, it was a grant that all counties were allowed to participate. The grant expired and AMC still coordinates it. The Human Resources technical advice comes from David Drown Associates. So it's an agreement or a partnership between AMC and David Drown Associates that counties can access to, provided they have a membership.
Thank you.
Abby, will you please call the roll?
Kollars,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Dreno.
Yes. Next on the agenda is public appearances. At this time, is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak? Please be advised further on in the meeting, if you want to discuss something, you will not have that ability. So if you wish to speak at this time, please let us know, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Any public appearances? Hearing none, we'll move on to the agenda. The board appointment for vacant positions. Mandy?
This agenda item is in regard to the pending vacancy of the Security and Safety Committee. Upon a resignation effective on Thursday, this position will be open. In discussions with the facilities maintenance director, Cody Johnson has indicated that he would serve or fulfill this requirement as the coordinator for the committee. And that is my recommendation, to have Cody serve as the safety and security coordinator.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to that effect?
I will make the motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
John seconds.
Any further discussion, comments? Abby, will you please call the roll?
Kemp,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Colars,
Yes.
Drennel.
Yes. Next on the agenda is the Health and Human Services. Cassie Sassenberg with the COVID-19 response update. Cassie?
Good morning.
Good morning.
This morning, I'll start with our case investigation and contact tracing update. As of yesterday, Nicollet County has had a total of 3,129 positive cases of COVID-19, with 56 of those cases currently active. In the last month, our average was 92 positive cases per week. Our peak appears to be decreasing. When we started the month, the highest was 123 cases in 1 week. And last week we were down to 58 positive cases. So still consistently coming in, but definitely decreasing. The exposures have been largely related to household contacts, school contacts, out-of-state travel, and gatherings. We're also just noticing very rapid changes in age by the week. It used to be that several weeks would have very consistent themes. At this point, we have school age 1 week, middle age the next week, lots more fluctuation than there was in the past. In terms of our staff members continuing to do the case investigation and contact tracing, we are noting an increased decline in participation from community members and lack of follow through with some of those quarantine guidelines. And I think I've noted that in the majority of presentations, it just appears that that continues to decrease. In terms of vaccination, we have now administered 3,997 first doses and 3,026 second doses. As of yesterday, Nicollet County has 57% of its eligible population vaccinated, which is a really good number. 70 to 80% remains the goal for herd immunity. Since the last board meeting update, all of our clinics have been open to the public. Our largest clinics this month were first and second dose clinics for 743 people at the St. Peter Community Center. This week, we will be having an 80-person clinic at the Norwood Inn and a 20-person clinic planned in Lafayette using the public workspace. That will be on Friday. So we're trying to get the invitation for that clinic shared rather widely. We do worry that we'll have some difficulty in filling that one. At this point, some counties are taking a break from vaccine until the next population group is eligible, and that'll be that 12 to 15 population, hopefully this summer. Counties are taking a break due to an inability to fill clinics. We will likely be in that position definitely within the month of May if things continue on a similar track. Up until this point, we've been able to fully fill all of our clinic appointments, but that has been through frequent social media posts, phone calls to area businesses, and literally getting people from parking lots or the government center to see if they're interested. So it's been a lot of teamwork to get that done, but that is becoming more and more difficult. So in the next few weeks, we will continue to provide outreach wherever possible, focusing on going out to community locations with the goal of vaccinating at least 10 people at each stop rather than a clinic of 100 people. So that will be much more planning on our end and a little bit more time consuming, but we're hoping that we can catch people who are still interested in vaccine, who maybe aren't able to come in to an in-person clinic or to come during the hours that a clinic is offered. It will be easier for us to do that because as of this week, the state's rule regarding 90% of vaccine being used in 72 hours was indefinitely suspended. So that will allow us now increased flexibility and ability to have some more time for providing outreach. We still would assume though that in the month of May, we will end up temporarily suspending our request for vaccine, probably mid-May or towards the end of May, and then beginning to request it again once we're able to open up to the next age group. Our Nicollet County community health worker has been very instrumental in reaching many populations in Nicollet County. Equitably providing vaccine has been a concern of ours, as well as throughout the state. And we've been impressed to see a diverse attendance at our clinics. Lula has provided many phone calls, meetings, recorded videos, and visits in the community to build trust and participation in the clinics. And I do have some information on those demographics today. I'm hoping to pull some information to compare to most recent census data. But using the categories that PrepMod, our state software, puts together, our statistics look like, and these are categories, again, phrased through PrepMod, not of our own. The white population would make up 88.3% of our clinics. Other race was 2.7%. And it seems when I'm looking at the spreadsheet that that is mostly Hispanic or Latinx population. 1.7% preferred not to respond. 5.6% was Black or African American, 2% Asian, and 0.3% American Indian. And so when you compare those numbers to our demographics in Nicollet County, those are actually very good numbers, but I will make that comparison so that I can share that and make that a little bit more clear. And that is all that I have for my update this morning. I'm happy to answer any questions that members might have.
Does anyone have any specific questions for Cassie?
Madam
John?
Chair, Cassie, did you have any luck with KNUJ or other things in New Ulm to publicize for the west end of our county?
So in New Ulm, we haven't reached out to the radio station yet. We do plan on doing that. Abby and I have been talking about the best way to start making sure that we're including New Ulm in all of our press releases regarding vaccine. So that would include radio. I think that we will do that for this Friday's clinic.
Yeah.
We just got everything finalized for it yesterday. So today will be the day that we start providing more of that networking about the actual clinic itself. And we did have some staff members yesterday hanging additional flyers in the western end of the county as well.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could, Cassie, could you zero in again on the frequencies in the households? You said household, school, and I missed the other one.
Sure. I said household contacts, school contacts, out-of-state travel, and then gatherings.
So when you say school, are you talking about in the classroom, or are you talking about the other areas where activities take place, which I keep hearing about?
When we say school in particular, we're talking about more to do with like buses or classrooms or school related activities. So if it's a social gathering, we wouldn't include it as part of school.
Thank you, Cassie. Any additional questions for Ms. Sassenberg? Thank you. Keep
Thank
up the good work. Next on our agenda is Heather McCormick with Finance in the first quarter 2021 donations. Heather?
Good morning, members of the board. I have quarter one 2021 donations to present today for approval by resolution. For first quarter, our donations just included loan closet donations this quarter for a total of $310. So I would just be looking for an approval to accept these donations for quarter one.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
Would move the resolution.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Abby, will you please call the roll?
Ham,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Colars,
Yes,
Drennel.
Yes. Thank you. Resolution passes. Next on the agenda is property services. We have 7 conditional use permits to go through. John, would you like to start with the first one?
Yes. So the first item is a request of applicant Lincoln Langhorst and landowner Jacqueline Langhorst Revocable Trust. And this is for an approval of a registered land survey number 77. The site is located in New Sweden Township and is zoned agricultural. The proposal is to split a 120-acre parcel into 2 tracts of land. Tract A would have 40 acres and would be sold off to a neighboring landowner. Tract B would have 80 acres and would not change ownership. The existing property has a Torrance title and cannot be split using a regular meets and bounds description. One inquiry was made prior to the hearing, however, the caller did not object to the request. There was no public testimony at the hearing. After due consideration, the commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the registered land survey. Staff seeks a motion to approve the request and the attached findings of fact.
I move to approve.
Kemp seconds.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments? Abby, will you please call the roll?
Madam Chair,
Yes?
it appears
Okay.
Mr. Langhorst is on the line. Do we need to hear from him?
Actually, Commissioner Kohlers, he had that opportunity during the public comments. At this point, we are not allowing those comments. Any other comments from commissioners or board members? Abby, will you please call the roll?
Lipke,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Kohlers,
Yes.
Drennel,
Yes. Thank
Oh.
you.
So the second item I have is a request of applicant LJ Farms LLC for a conditional use permit to modify an existing cattle feedlot into a swine feedlot. This site is also located in New Sweden Township and is also zoned agricultural. The proposal is to demo the existing building site and the existing feedlot. Two new total confinement swine barns will be built on the site. One would measure 132 feet by 330 feet, and that would be a farrowing barn. There would also be a gestation barn measuring 142 feet by 520 feet. Both of those will have underfloor liquid manure storage areas. The proposal meets all the applicable county and MPCA standards for setbacks and requirements for feedlots in the ag district. One inquiry again was made prior to the hearing. The caller did not object to the request. There was no public testimony at the hearing. After due consideration, the commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request. Madam Chair, staff seeks a motion to approve the request and the attached findings of fact.
I'll move to approve.
Kemp second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Abby, will you please call the roll?
Lipke,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Kohlers,
Yes.
Drennel,
Yes.
The third item that I have is a request of applicant Mark and Julie Frankamp for an after-the-fact conditional use permit for a level 2 home occupation. This site is also located in New Sweden Township and zoned agricultural. The home occupation business is known as New Sweden Woodworks. This business builds pallets and boxes for shipping purposes. Business activities mostly occur within existing buildings on the site, and the business is partially screened from the road by existing vegetation. The business employs 1 to 5 temporary workers. However, due to limited workspace, only 1 to 3 of the workers are on site at any time. Areas that are open to the public or employees will be required to meet all applicable state codes, such as the building and plumbing codes, as well as the Americans with Disabilities Act requirements and standards. The proposal meets the applicable county standards and setbacks for home occupations in the ag district. There were no public comments received prior to the hearing and no public testimony at the hearing. After due consideration, the commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request. Staff seeks a motion to approve the request and the attached findings of fact.
Move to approve.
Kemp second.
Thank you. Any comments, questions from the board? Abby, will you please call the roll?
Lipke,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Kohlers,
Yes.
Drennel.
Yes.
The fourth item that I have is a request of applicant Willis Walter for a 3-year review of a mineral extraction permit. The permit is to mine, crush, and stockpile gravel. The site is located in Traverse Township and is zoned a mix of shoreline, conservancy, and agricultural. The proposal would increase the size of the mine from 10 acres to 21.17 acres. This includes 2.37 acres actively being mined at this time, 4.7 acres that are not being mined but yet have not been reclaimed, and 14 acres for future expansion of the mine site. No blasting occurs at the facility, and the applicant has a valid bond and reclamation plan on file. Over the last 3 years, 10,130 tons of material have been removed from the site. There were no public comments prior to the hearing and no public testimony at the hearing. The commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request. Madam Chair, staff seeks a motion to approve the request and the attached findings of fact.
Campbell move it.
Lipke seconds.
Thank you. Fellow board members, I need to recuse myself from voting on this. This is my neighbors, so any questions or comments for John? Hearing none. Abby, will you call the roll?
Kemp,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Colars.
Yes.
Okay, the fifth
Thank
item I
you.
have.
You're welcome.
So the fifth item I have today is a request of applicant W. Lawrence and Sons Construction and landowner River Valley Enterprises for a conditional use permit to establish a mineral extraction facility. The site is located in Cortland Township, adjacent to the city of Cortland. It's zoned a mix of conservancy and agricultural. The facility would mine, crush, stockpile, process, recycle, and wash aggregate materials on up to 20 acres of land. No blasting would occur at the site, and the applicant has submitted a reclamation plan. Neighboring landowner Kenneth Drill did call to object the request. The applicant is proposing to access the site across Mr. Drill's property. And then Darren Drill did testify on behalf of Mr. Drill at the hearing. Darren Drill said that there was no agreement concerning access, and he did not believe that there was a recorded easement. We did receive a copy of a written objection this morning from Mr. Kenneth Drill. Due to these access concerns, a 13th condition was added to the request to address the access, and that condition reads: verification the applicant has legal access to the property must be submitted to property services prior to issuance of this conditional use permit. The commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of this request, and we seek a motion to approve the request and the attached.
Colars moves.
Campbell second.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Sandquist, you had your opportunity to speak at the public comment section of the meeting. At this point, we do not take public comment.
The reason I asked, Madam Chair, is that there's an ambiguity in that particular 13th condition that my clients and I represent the applicant, because the staff at the Planning and Commission meeting had indicated that there is a particularized need for not just lawful access, but certain documentation, including a recorded agreement, and we need clarification for our purposes as to who is going to set that standard, or merely whether or not lawful access is going to be required. We were just simply trying to avoid additional problems in the future and forcing staff to have to deal with that.
Again, Mr. Sandquist, you had your opportunity during the public comment. Members of the board, do you have any questions and or comments?
I have a, Madam Chair, I was wondering if Seth wanted to comment if there's anything going on about a different access.
Yes, I can comment, give you a little background. Lorenz Construction had reached out to the Public Works Department sometime last year, and we had very limited conversations about potential access for this mining site coming from County Road 25. A significant amount of time passed, and we didn't hear anything further from Lorenz, and I had reached out to Mr. Hamill just to see if he had had any further conversations with Lorenz. And at that time, Mr. Hamill indicated that Lorenz had found an alternate access through a different property and onto the township road. Since then, Lorenz Construction has reached out for us to further investigate to see if we can permit and allow an access for the mining operation onto County Road 25. We are still in the process of reviewing and evaluating to see if a safe permitted access can be given to Lorenz Construction to access County Road 25. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Well, Seth, John here. Both parties have reached out to me, as you know. And I'm just wondering, since this is still under review from your department, if we should table this? It's just a thought.
Comments from either Administrator Landkamer or John Hamel?
Madam Chair, the purpose of the condition was to allow the processing of the conditional use permit to continue to avoid any violation of the 60-day law. The condition, as discussed at the meeting last week, and then with the Planning Commission, was to give the applicant and the proposer an opportunity to come to some type of agreement, whether we're going to allow an recorded easement to cross the property or to seek a alternative access with the County Public Works Department. This is not something the Planning Commission could comment on as far as the interpretation of whether the prescriptive easement is a legal access easement, but it allowed the applicant and the proposer to move forward with the conditional use permit as proposed, noting that before the conditional use permit could be approved, they would have to have compliance with all 13 conditions, and this would give them that opportunity to have those conversations without holding up any of the permitting process.
Thank you. Commissioner Kemp, you're unmuted. You have a comment?
I'm sorry, I didn't mute. You didn't see my light. So, sorry.
Any further questions or comments from the board?
Well, Madam Chair, if we do take action and on the planning and zoning idea alone, and then this other information that the county engineer shared causes a discrepancy, where does that put the county?
There isn't a discrepancy if item 13 is included. Is that not, or am I not understanding that correctly?
Maybe I didn't hear that. John's microphone seems to be cutting in and out on my place here.
Yeah, item 13 would give them the ability to work through either Public Works or a private party for access at this point and still go forward with their conditional use permit.
Well,
Madam Chair, excuse me. Madam Chair, I was just wondering from Seth, do you have any idea by our next meeting, will you have determined whether they can get an access on 25?
It's possible. We have some survey work to reestablish the county right of way out there, which will help us in our investigation to see if we can permit a safe access for this parcel. The same staff that does the survey work are also on construction projects that are currently going on. So it's trying to get staff time, staff freed up to be able to do that survey work.
Okay, thank you.
So, Madam Chair, just to clarify, if what John had mentioned and what Denny had suggested and what you had repeated, it seems like taking action here would put us in a good spot from the planning and zoning perspective.
Correct.
I'll call the question.
Thank you. Abby, would you please call the roll?
Colars,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Lipke,
No.
Drano.
Yes. Thank you. Number 6, John? Do John's froze. John Hamill appears to be froze. There we go.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you, John.
Hear me? Okay. So the sixth item that I have is a request of applicant Forrest Long Holsteins and landowner Paul and Cynthia Swenson for a conditional use permit to modify an existing dairy feedlot. The property is located in New Sweden Township and is zoned agricultural. The proposal includes the construction of a 64-foot by 92-foot barn addition and a 150 by 300 by 18-foot deep earth and manure storage basin. The number of animal units will not change. Excuse me, 601. The applicant has a manure management plan in place. The proposal meets all the applicable county and MPCA standards and setbacks for feedlots in the ag district. After due consideration, the commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request. The staff seeks a motion to approve the request of the attached findings of fact.
Move to approve.
Campbell second.
Thank you. Any further questions for the board or staff? Abby, would you please call the roll?
Lipke,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Colars,
Yes.
Drano.
Yes. Thank you.
So the seventh and last item I have is the request of applicants John and Valerie Reike for a conditional use permit to modify an existing swine feedlot. Properties in Ridgely Township is zoned agricultural. The proposal includes a demolition of the swine barn and the construction of a new 53-foot by 154-foot replacement swine barn. The number of animal units will increase. It will go from 585 to 740. The applicant has a manure management plan in place. The proposal appears to meet all the applicable county and state standards and setbacks for feedlots in the ag district. The commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request. Madam Chair, staff seeks a motion to approve the request and the attached findings of fact.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Campbell second.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Abby, would you please call the roll?
Colars,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Drano.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could, so New Sweden was kind of busy this past month for your planning and zoning.
Very.
That's correct, yes.
Any reason for that, or was it just a backup or coincidence?
I think part of it was we didn't have our hearing in March because of the weather, so that added some hearings to this last month here.
There also appears to be a lot of construction happening out there in rural America, which is kind of fun to see. Thank you. On to our next item, probation. The Nicollet County Corrections Advisory Board resolution. Department Head Molitor, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm before the board this morning to talk about the Nicollet County Community Corrections Advisory Board resolution, asking for the board's consideration for the formation of this unit. It'll be an advisory board formulated so that we can provide information back to the county board on things that are happening in Nicollet County Community Corrections. We are staged to go forward on July 1st to become Nicollet County Community Corrections. I'm asking for the board's consideration for support of formulation of this board. As mentioned in previous discussions at a recent workshop, this consists of 9 members. I have 9 individual members to serve on this board, and I'm asking for the support of the board so that we can form, have a meeting, elect a chair, provide a schedule of when we'll be meeting into the future. And upon that time, when terms and chairs are been formulated, I will go back to you as a board and let you know who is representing on that board.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, I'll move the advisory board creation. I have a question.
Thank
Full
you.
second.
Commissioner Kolars, your question?
Yeah, thank you. Under Article 3 in membership, Rich, you have all the representative designations there, but you have a number 3 behind law enforcement. Could you
Yes, that's a
clarify?
notation, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Mr. Collars, that at the initial formulation, I was going to have all 3 representatives from law enforcement in Nicollet County. That'd be the sheriff and the chief of police in North Mankato and the chief of police in St. Peter. But when we form this board, I'm inviting Sheriff Lang to the board for the first term. And then after we announce the terms of service, we will rotate the other 2 in throughout the commission of this board.
Thank you. And as a follow-up, when we discussed this at work session, one individual who had previously been mentioned filled like 3 different areas: citizen, education, and person of color or ethnic minorities. Are you still on that path?
I have that person right now representing ethnic minorities and education. So again, we have 9 full board members currently. When we get together, we may look into adding additional members if we as a group decide to do that, but we will again present that to the county board for approval.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for Mr. Molitor? Abby, will you please call the roll?
Kolars,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Drano.
Yes. Next on our agenda is Public Works and the Annual Agricultural Inspector Report. I would assume this is Mr. Henry's show.
Yeah, that's correct. Good morning. Everybody should have a copy of this, either provided by Abby or in the packet. So last year's ag report and ag duties, I guess, were shifted a bit different just due to the pandemic. A lot of the routine kind of training, inspection, and follow-up meetings and discussion we would have with other local entities, whether it's township officers or other county ag inspectors, were cut short due to the pandemic. So activity last year was limited compared to years past, and so we didn't quite use up all the budget we had last year, but we still were able to do our process and get done what we needed to. We had a handful of weed complaints, but nothing that rose to the level of serving any level 1 or 2 notices. I feel like we got a good handle on what landowners are expected, and townships and MnDOT, and usually if you just make a follow-up phone call or a site visit with them, we have pretty good compliance with the weed law anyway. So my summary from last year is attached, and the work plan for this year is also attached, and I anticipate returning to a more normal 2021 with actually being able to attend the short course. Last year was the first year we did not hold it in the history of the association. So this year we're hosting it in Chanhassen. So we're planning for an in-person meeting, hoping restrictions are lifted and the virus kind of calms down and things return to a more level playing field here. If you have any questions on the report, feel free to ask. And I got a few other kind of highlights or comments I'll make once you have a chance to look through it.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to accept the report?
I'll move to accept.
Temple second.
And additional questions for Nate or comments from Nate at this point?
Nate,
We'll
am I
just,
still on that committee with you for the,
yep, you're on the appeal committee.
yeah, we've never met, have we?
Not formally, just kind of informal, had some communication once, but
Right,
the problem was resolved, so,
right. Okay, thank you.
yeah. Yep.
Nate, you had some comments?
Yeah, I'll just touch on a couple things. Like I said, last year, we didn't have our short course. This year, we're planning for an in-person one. The highway department has one new licensed applicator out of the Nicollet shop. So that'll take the total of applicators here to 3 licensed applicators. So last year in 2020, the MDA offered a grant and we applied and were successful. Up to $5,000 was the maximum we could apply for, and we got that and put that towards herbicide purchases and staff time and labor to treat noxious weeds that we have identified in the right of ways. This year, they have not announced a grant application. I suppose it's due to funding shortages and uncertainties in the budget. So there hasn't been anything announced yet. If there is, we will apply. And yeah, the highway department has been doing a lot more fall application of herbicide for thistles and noxious weeds. And we're finding that it's a lot more beneficial to do that if we can spray more and not be as conscious of crops in the back slope of the ditch. Usually soybeans are going down by the time thistles are coming up. So that's been successful for us, and we'll continue to do that going forward.
Thank you. Abby, will you call the roll?
Lipke,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Colars,
Yes,
Drano.
Yes. Thank you. Next on our agenda is administration.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On your packet on page 311, there is a resolution for your consideration regarding the extension of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Previously, it was allowed to go through March of 2020 to December 31st. And then in January 1st of 2021, it was extended through March 31st of 2021. Based on the last month's situation with staff, I am recommending approval of the resolution to allow the extension of those benefits, which included the 80 hours. So staff that have not used their full 80 hours, that they could continue to use them for the month of March, or excuse me, the month of April, that they could have access to the advancement of their 60 or 80 hours advanced sick leave, and then also the emergency FMLA provisions within it. So within your packet, that is that resolution to allow the extension of 1 additional month through April 30th of 2021. If you have any questions, I'd be more than willing to answer them.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Colars.
thank you. Just to share with the other members, Personnel Committee had been advised of this, and we have worked through with Mandy some of these provisions. And it seems fair that we would pass this resolution, and I will so move.
Thank you. Is there a
Temple
second?
second.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Please call the roll on the resolution, Abby.
Colars,
Yes,
Kemp,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Drano.
Yes. Thank you.
Just for your information, there was a separate document within your package titled the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and this is dated May 1st through 2021 through September 30th of 2021. These are the potential options that if the board chose to, they could also consider for adoption in the future. Again, it's just referencing the emergency paid sick leave, emergency FMLA, and then the continuance of the advancement of sick leave. And you'll notice that there is a description, the duration of what that actually means for the number of hours, what other counties are currently offering these services, and any additional observations as far as staff usage over the last year or so, a little over a year with it. This is just, again, informational and for a future discussion, but wanted to provide this for those discussions. If there's any questions, I'd be more than willing to have answer those for you.
Madam Chair, Mandy, what happens if somebody uses this advanced sick leave and then they quit?
There is a provision within the policy that if the staff person, they advance the 80 hours, if they stay 1 year, 40 hours are forgiven. If they stay 2 years, then all 80 hours. So it would depend on when that staff person resigned their position, if they were within the 1 or 2 years following the usage of the sick time. If they were to resign within one of those either time periods, they would have to pay back those hours.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next item.
The next item is in regard to the hiring process for the Human Resources Director. You received additional information yesterday, and it's just kind of a breakdown based on the discussions that occurred last week as far as the chart. And there were initially 5 discussion points. I did summarize them into 3 for simplicity purposes. The first one on the left column is in regard to the interim Human Resources Director. On the right side, and those would be your options. You could either consider an appointment of an internal or external candidate. As far as the external candidate, that the county would request assistance from a consulting or a specialized firm to go ahead and continue that process and do the recruiting. If the board chose to select an internal candidate, that would just occur at a board meeting and the appointment of that individual. The next item is the staff assistant, and this would be considered a temporary position. We do have 3 options available for the board to consider. The first one is the availability of previously temp staff that had occurred within the Human Resources Office within the last year and a half. This would, of course, depend on that individual's availability, and that would be based on the duties assigned to the individual, and then also, of course, the number of hours and or days that this individual would work. This was previously a paid position. Your next option for staff assistance would be the Minnesota Valley Council of Governments. They currently do offer human resources assistance to local government and entities. Again, it's going to be the similar situation of determining the priority duties and then the number of hours and or days an individual would provide assistance to the county. This fee is a little bit different. If it was based on the number of hours per week, the fee would be $75, or the county could consider a prorated membership of $10,592.96 rather than the full annual membership. And then if the prorated annual membership was chosen, there would be no maximum number of hours that the Minnesota Council of Government could provide assistance to the county for that year. And then the last option for staff assistance is in regard of pursuing a human resources focused intern. We are fortunate enough to be in the position we are in with the proximity to secondary education facilities, specifically Minnesota State University and Gustavus College. Both entities provide human resources departments, and so that would be one opportunity to investigate a little bit further. There's been some initial conversations with those entities about acquiring an intern. We all know from many of our previous experiences that an internship really gives you that opportunity to understand what that process or the job is about. And so that may be something that the county may consider. Again, this will have to be determined whether it's paid or an unpaid position. And then the last item on the left side is the appointment of a permanent position. And this is more in regard to the schedule for the rehiring. The first thing the board would need to do is determine whether they would like to have the human resources director, the permanent position filled prior to the appointment of the county administrator, or allow the county administrator to be part of that selection. After that's determined, then the board would need to determine if they wanted to pursue the assistance of a consulting firm, just as in with the county administrator position. I broke it down a little bit further, and just for timeline purposes and for conversation, if the human resources director was hired prior to the appointment of the county administrator, realistically, a timeline from start to finish, if the process was started in May, it's about 2 to 3 months for that. And they could realistically have a human resources director, a permanent position in by August. if the county and the board chose to pursue recruiting while the county administrator position was open, and then allow the county administrator to be part of that final selection. Again, it would still take 2 to 3 months. That process would be delayed a little bit, but there would not be a permanent individual in that position until October with it. So you're looking at the potential for 2 to 3 months, whether you have a temporary appointment or an interim human resources director to a full permanent position with it. Again, this is just a rough draft with that. I'll answer any questions as we move forward with it, but for simplicity purposes, just wanted to address those 5 issues and combine them into 3 for conversation pieces.
Thank you. Any questions, comments for Ms. Landcamer?
Madam Chair.
Well, go ahead, Denny.
When do you anticipate having that more in-depth discussion with the board? Are we going to schedule some meeting for that purpose and go through those issues and look at them more in depth, or we're going to utilize our current schedule to do it, which would take us to our next work session?
I think there are options available to the board, depending on the schedule. I think it may be appropriate to have more of a special board meeting discussion to continue this process moving forward. The nice thing is, or the fortunate thing is, the board did approve that membership to the AMC Human Resources Technical Assistance. And so that is a great resource for staff to have available as we move through and the selections or the decisions are made. But I think, again, the uniqueness of this position and the difficulty of the interpretation of these laws associated with human resources, it's important to have someone in the position as we move forward. And I think it's just, as we all know, time goes by a lot faster than we anticipate, and it's important to have someone in that position providing assistance. Right now, we do have 1 individual in the office, and it's a lot for 1 person to take on, specifically with the administration of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act and all the other typical duties with the hiring, interviewing process, and all the other things that pop up as typically do in human resources departments with it. So I think there is the importance to move forward and have maybe a special discussion at maybe a special board meeting for in-depth discussion.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Interim Administrator Landcamer basically made the point that I wanted to talk about. We have to remember that 2 of the 3 people that worked in that department for the past years are not with us anymore. And the remaining person is sitting in on this Zoom meeting today. And it would seem to me, this is my opinion, it would seem to me that it would be good for us to consider action of appointing an individual internally as the interim, and that 1 person is the one who is with us today, and then get some consulting specialized firm to help us moving forward. Unless there's a problem with that, that would be my comfort level.
Thank you, Jack. Additional comments?
I have a question for the chair. As you also serve on the personnel committee, would that be a reasonable approach in your mind, or do you have other thoughts?
Yeah, it would be a reasonable approach. Personnel is meeting on Thursday. I think we could talk and flesh it out and perhaps have a special board meeting next week to finalize things. I could see that happening fairly quickly.
Is that reasonable to you, Jack?
I think that that's an idea that needs to be discussed, right? And because, as Mandy pointed out, days fly by and we've got 1 person there working it and we're short-staffed.
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Lipke?
Yeah, I agree with Jack, especially on the first part, but the assistant, could we utilize an intern and pay them at least something? for being there as an assistant to the interim director?
Certainly, if you could find one.
Well, I don't think I could find one, but I'm sure someone here could.
Finding bodies is proving to be difficult in all occupations lately. So I do think Thursday morning, Jack and I are meeting with Mandy on some other issues. We could have this conversation. And perhaps that there may be other things for a special board meeting next week or later next week too.
And Madam Chair,
Yes,
I would point out to Jack that absent all others, Whitney is our interim head regardless, because she's the only one doing it. So I'm perfectly fine with the Thursday reference point.
she's a rock star that needs some backup.
Exactly, and I'm glad for that, because then I know you will seek good counsel to the rest of the board in giving us some alternatives that we can discuss in a special meeting. So I'd be very supportive of that.
Thank you. We'll probably be chatting with Whitney too.
I'm guessing so. I got my other thought though, was Jack, did you make an original motion? Or was that
Oh,
just a motion?
Commissioner, I did not. I just wanted to at least flesh it out, and there was no motion here because I think it needs more discussion, and but I think we're at a point where those discussions will take place so we can bring them back to the board.
Okay, then I'm comfortable with that. If Thursday is your start date, that's very timely in my mind.
Board Chair and Commissioner Morrow will be back with us next week too. All right, on to our third item.
The third item for your consideration is the attached David Drown Associates or DDA proposal to provide services during the hiring process of the county administrator position. That proposal is within your packet. We had discussion last week concerning it. If there are any other questions, I am requesting approval of the proposal upon final review of the county attorney.
Kemp will make that motion.
John seconds.
Any questions or comments from the board members?
Yes. Do we get a better deal if we have them do both positions?
Yes, they do. Typically, the hiring of the human resources director would be approximately $15,000. If the county chose to have DDA do both positions, they would reduce the human resources director down to $13,000.
Okay, well, that's helpful, a little bit.
Not a lot, though. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none. Abby, will you please call the roll?
Kemp,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Colars.
Yeah.
Drennel.
Yes. All right. On to the report section of our meeting, the chair's report. Commissioner Morrow did not leave anything for us. So we'll go on to Commissioner Committee reports. Commissioner Lepke.
Yes. Was it the workshop, the Brown Nicollet? And yesterday an ISG gentleman gave me a tour of the 86A pump station while the workers were taking a break. And don't we have to do Nate's request yet? Of course, that'll be in drainage. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kemp.
Since we last gathered at a board meeting, I was department head meeting workshop, and I had attended the 86A informational meeting. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Kolars.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I supplied my meeting notes to Abigail Lewis for her convenience. We had a RETA board meeting, Greater Mankato Growth, Traverse to Sioux, Minnesota Valley Action Council, the workshop, attended an AMC Research Committee meeting, County Ditch 86 with Commissioner Kemp, CHS Diversity Council. Thank you.
Thank you. I attended the full Region 9 Commission meeting, a True Transit meeting last Thursday. Our rider numbers are creeping up. It is still free through the end of the year unless things change between now and then. We had a marathon planning and zoning meeting last Monday night. Department head board workshop, a liaison committee meeting with the city of St. Peter, and the Brown Nicollet Community Health Board meeting. Next on the agenda is the approval of commissioner meetings and conferences. I don't believe we have any.
Not aware of them.
Okay. Next is the approval of per diems and expenses.
So moved.
Second.
Comments or questions? Hearing none. Abby, will you please call the roll?
Colars,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Journal.
Yes. At this point, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn the commission meeting.
Kemp will move it. And I'll be
I'll
the
second.
seconder.
Abby will choose.
I'll just pick.
You
All
pick
right.
one, Abby.
Thank you. And we'll take a roll on this too, please.
Kemp,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Colars,
Yes.
Journal.
Yes, thank you. Now that the full board is adjourned, we will open up the Drainage Authority meeting. First on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Kemp will move the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Abby, will you please call the roll?
Kemp,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Colars,
Yes.
Journal.
Yes. And Jackie would like to set a public hearing date for County Ditch 48A reestablishment.
Morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Yes, if you recall, on September 22nd, 2020, the Drainage Authority did order a reestablishment of the drainage records for County Ditch 48A. Chris Otterness of Houston Engineering was appointed the engineer to prepare the report for this, and Chris has submitted that final report on April 12th, 2021. I've been in contact with them, and we would like to set the public hearing for this on June 22nd at 10 a.m. at our regular board meeting. This would be via Zoom. I think that is a just fine method for this public hearing. And so I'm just looking for approval of the June 22nd public hearing at 10 a.m.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to that effect?
Kemp will move it.
Thank you. I'll second it. Abby, will you please call the roll?
Kemp,
Yes.
Journal,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Colars.
Yes.
Thank you. And we have our agenda addition item, a ditch repair report from Nate.
Yes, good morning again. County Ditch 86A repair report 21-008 is for a request the landowners have to pull and remove and potentially repair 3 electric pumps that are out there right now. The current old pump station has 5 electric pumps in it. 3 of them are broken, 2 are working. So should we get a heavy rain or enter a wet period, there's potential that the pumps would not be able to keep up with the ditch and crops would drown out. So landowners are requesting we remove them and bring them into Cortland Waste in Cortland to diagnose the problem and repair what is needed on them so they are functional.
Are they repairable?
Potentially, it's hard to say exactly what's wrong until you pull them out and actually take them apart and get a better look at what is broken. This number of $15,000 is purely an estimate because like I said, it could be just welding some coupling on the shaft, which would be pretty cheap. or it could be the pump itself. It could be bad. So it's hard to say exactly what's wrong and what the definite cost will be until they get taken out and torn apart.
So Madam Chair, Nate, what is the goal, to get all three of them fixed or two of them fixed?
Depending on what is wrong with them and how costly it would be, we'll be fixing one for sure. And
Okay.
if it's just a minor repair, we could potentially fix all three, because once the project is complete, the ditch system does still retain ownership of these pumps. And if they're functioning and working, I believe there would be some value in them, potentially sell them to a company and get something for them, versus if they don't work, then they're junk. So.
Yeah. No, thank you. And I've gotten several calls from landowners on the lower end of that system who actually need that ditch to be in a low position for their crops. And Nate and I are thinking along the same lines.
Thank you. Commissioner Kemp?
Nate, if we are unable to repair or only repair one pump of the three that are disabled, do we have additional tractor pumping available to us that would keep up with that? I think the original comment was the normally heavy spring rains. Would that still give us the capacity we need, or is that still a tenuous situation?
Well, the goal of the landowners down there would be to have 3 electric ones running, and we still have the option of the large 30-inch tractor. So that's the minimum they want to see running. Of course,
Okay.
If we get a major rain event, well, yeah, then that's not going to work. And there still is potential to bring in portable pumps. The contractor has a couple on site right now. So we're not solely limited to what we have. I mean, there's more options, but it's just hard to predict what you'll need for what
Right.
rain event.
Well, I appreciate that. But all of these pumps that are currently in a non-use state, are they all physically, or it appears to be physically, the mechanical portion versus the electrical portion? Or don't we know that?
It's hard to say exactly what is wrong. If it's
All right.
the motor, the pump, or the shaft, got to pull them out and tear them apart to get a good idea.
Sure. Thank you.
Commissioner Kemp, excuse me. My understanding is from the landowners on the lower end that the tractor pump is fine for preventing over the field flooding. But as far as getting their tile to work in those low areas, they have to have the electrics to get the level low enough so the plants can get the roots down.
Gotcha.
Well, it makes sense that we have to do this, and it's their request. So I would move the authorization of the repair.
Thank you. I can second that. Do we have any further conversation? Estimated time to get this accomplished, Nate, or don't we know that either?
We're hoping to have them pulled out this week, and depending on the diagnosis, put back in with a week. But given the current situation of the economy now, I know it's hard to get just parts and equipment for any construction related stuff. So we're hoping to get them pulled out this week and then get a better idea of what's needed to fix them.
Okay, thank you. Abby, would you call the roll if there's no other questions?
Kemp,
Yes.
Drennel,
Yes.
Lipke,
Being a landowner on the system, I have to abstain.
Kolars.
Yes.
Thank you. Anything else for the Drainage Authority at this time?
Move to adjourn.
I'll second that. Abby?
Kemp,
Yes.
Drennel,
Yes.
Kolars,
Yes.
Lipke.
We are adjourned. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you.